Hey guys, this is Grace and welcome to process video number 2 for my 10 handmade cards, 1 homemade kit for January and February. So for this one, card number 6, I wanted to play around with the washi tape, and so I figured I would fill up a slightly smaller white cardstock with that at a diagonal. And I was showing you there that the die cut that I had cut out, the wreath one, wasn't really working very well because the background was so busy, and so I cut a circle from white and then put that wreath on top. And then I'm going to be pulling one of these thank you stickers from the Doodlebug sheet. I think the yellow one is what I'm choosing, and then I'm going to put that in the center of the die cut. The die cut is from Diversions, and it just has a bunch of hearts, and then the washi, I think it's from Little B. And then I'm going to adhere that to the card base with some fun foam, and then I'm going to call it good. So this is a very simple card. I really just wanted to see what that washi tape would look like if I put it on a card, and I love the results, but it is pretty bold, and so I don't think there's anything else that needs to be added to this. I think I will add maybe some pearls. It's been a while since I've made this card, so I can't quite remember. But as far as other techniques, that's how it's going to be. And I love that when I put the washi together, butt it up against each other, it's actually working really well. It was seamless. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, so on to card number 7, and I gotta say, this is my favorite out of all of the cards that I have created for this kit. It's just, I love how the hearts turned out. So I cut out a bunch of hearts from the pattern paper, and I actually just used 2 different size of hearts, one that's kind of a very traditional, and then one that's a little bit skinny. And what I'm going to do with this is I'm actually going to turn them into flowers. So that was another thing that you might want to consider when you are looking into maximizing the tools that you have, is to see if you can make a different shape out of the existing shape that you already have. So here I am putting together the quote-unquote flowers made of hearts. So what I did was I have 2 of the big ones, the 2 kind of regular size hearts, and then 4 of the skinny ones. And when I butt that all together, the flower comes up. And I'm going to do that a few more times here just to kind of so you can see it. Now I put that oval vellum in the center because that's where I'm going to put my title. Initially anyways, that's where I'm going to put it. But later on you're going to see that I'm going to change my mind on that. Nothing is adhered yet because I wanted to see where everything's going to go. I did cut a bunch of them, and so I wanted to make sure that I don't put the same design next to each other. I want that a little bit scattered, and so I'm just kind of working my way here. Nothing has been adhered, and I'm also, when I'm ready to adhere it, I am going to ink the edges up of each of the hearts so that it will stand out against my white background. So I'm just moving things around. So this is a little bit of a tedious job, but the results, I really love the results on this one. So I moved things around because, like I said, I didn't want the same images to be close together. And another beauty about the papers that I'm using, especially the ones from, no, I think both of them, the We Are Memory Keepers and also the Doodlebug, they are both double-sided pads. So it was great because I can flip them around like what I did here. I didn't want the dots too much, and so I flipped it around. And then I've run out of the same color or paper, and so I just added some of the brown ones for that, and that I'm fine with that. So here I'm just inking the edges. Again, a little bit of a tedious job, but I love the results. So So I think out of all of the cards, this one was the one that took the longest, because you have to do the die cutting and then placement and inking, but I love the results of this. So I decided to make it easy for me and just adhere the hearts that I'm turning into flowers with just some dots of adhesive from Glue Dots, and that makes it really easy. And I can also kind of move them around just to make sure that the placement, they're butting up against each other. So that's my first flower right there. And then now that I've adhered all of the flowers, I am going to add a little bit of a stem for my flower to make it more believable that they are flowers. So I'm just using I think it's a 0.3 pen from American Crafts. And that's what I usually use for my journaling when I do scrapbooking. And so that's kind of my go-to pen. And I'm adding a little bit of leaves here and there, again, to make sure that the person that's looking at this card can tell that they are flowers. And then I am going to finish off each of the flowers with some sequins in the center. I'm just going to use my hand and just some mini dots to complete that. And I'm going to do some red ones and then the peach one as well. So as you can see, I've kind of abandoned the idea of using the vellum oval in the center, because it was a little bit too big for the canvas that I have. And then also I feel like the red was taking away from the rest of the card. And so I'm going to just adhere that on a white cardstock. And then I'm going to be putting the sentiment just right on that white paper. I'm going to trim it up a little bit because I believe my card was 4 by 5.5 and not your regular A2 size. So I'm going to commit to my card base and also my card panel here, and then I'm going to adhere that onto the front. And I hope you guys are liking this videos. I try to do them every other month. And so if you do like them, please make sure that you give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more from me and want to see more of these kinds of videos, make sure that you hit the subscribe button so you know when the videos come up when I do post them. So this one, I decided that I wanted to use the thank you sticker sheet as my sentiment, but I am trying to figure out which color would be best. I don't want it to clash, but at the same time, I want the sentiment to stand out. And so I am going to go with the purple one here, and that's the video. And then now we're going to card number 8, and this one's a fairly simple card as well. I did do a little bit of technique here, but it's a pretty easy technique. So I ran that heart doily die with using my masking tape from Inka Dinka Doo, and then I'm going to just peel it off, and I wanted to kind of mask off some parts of this watercolor paper, and then use my distress ink and create a very subtle color in the background. Now this wreath or doily is really very delicate, and so I have to be very careful on my transferring of the ink onto the piece of paper. And so instead of kind of just rubbing it, I was actually pouncing it a little bit more, just so that I can keep those hearts. And I did just use one single stencil here, or mask I should say, and then just moved it around so I can create 3 different doily images onto my watercolor paper here. And then I decided that the color wasn't really showing very much, so I'm going to go back and just kind of add a little bit more onto the edges there, and I'm going to adhere that to the card base. And my card base is just kind of a hot pink type of paper, cardstock I should say. And then I had stamped and heat embossed this for someone special, and then die cut it with the label die. But as you can see, the label or the fishtail is only showing on the left side, and that's because I wanted that I wanted the sentiment to go on the very edge, right edge of the card. And then I have these tiny hearts that are kind of leftovers from when I had die cut a bunch of them using the paper smooches die, and that's what I adhered there. Now my video kind of cut off there, but instead of using the sequins and the pearls, I just use some Nouveau crystal drops for that. And this is card number 9. And with this one, I am running out of paper. I have a little bit of pattern paper, but as far as cardstock, I was basically out. And so what I wanted to do was use the very bold purple cardstock that I had pulled out for this kit. It's actually a leftover from when I made some card bases, but I wanted to use that, and so I used the scrap of the circle or the paper that I created a circle from. I believe it was card number 6, and then I used that to kind of hold that 2 pieces of cardstock together, so it will kind of make it seem like it's one whole sheet of cardstock instead of 2. And then I'm going to trim that slightly smaller than my card base. Now, I'm not really concerned with the seam that it creates because I'm going to cover most of that up with this pattern paper. I wanted to do kind of a modern look because of the pattern paper that I chose, so I'm going to adhere that at an angle, and then put my decorations on top of that. So there is my card, and I am inking that with more tea dye ink, the one that I've been using for the other cards, and I'm going to adhere that on my card base. So there is a slight seam on the bottom left, but I'm not really worried about that. I also wanted to use up this large bike sticker from that sticker sheet that I had pulled out from, oh, I can't even remember what company that is, but it's okay because the company is already out of business. So My Little Shoebox, that's what it was. But I wanted to use up the stickers from that sticker sheet, and so this bike was one of them, and I wanted to use that up. And I am going to adhere a lot of not fun foam, but a lot of foam adhesive on the back, and then I'm going to adhere that onto the card. At first I thought, well, maybe I can put that in the where the seam is to totally cover it, but it didn't really work out with the design that I have, and so I just decided to put that right where the edge of the angled pattern paper is. And then I'm going to run a piece of scrap of white paper, and then run a die cut label on there. And then instead of stamping, I don't know if you remember the products that I pulled out for this kit, I also have this Pebbles rub-on that says congratulations. And I thought that would work out with the bike because it could be for congratulations for, a job or for something that somebody have done in their lives. So I thought that would work. I'm not very good with sentiments, to be honest with you, but I thought that this one could fit a variety of different occasions. So I'm going to go with that. I did ink the edges with some more tea dye just to give that a little bit of emphasis, and then I'm going to adhere that to the bottom of the card. And then I remembered that I had a bunch of hearts still left over from when I did a bunch of die cuts. And so I'm going to see if I can put a little bit of them here just to kind of use them up. Like I said, this is my ninth card, and so I am kind of in the very end of my supplies here. So I'm just trying to see what else I can use. So I'm going to put 3 different hearts to kind of create a visual triangle for my card and then call it good. And there's card number 9. Oh, I will add a few, just rub it with my glitter pen here to kind of give it a little bit of shine. Then call it good. All right, now we are on card number 10, the very last one. So with this one, I kind of wanted to do a shaker card. And so I had grabbed there's 2 different labels from the die cut set, the oval and then this really fancy flourish label. And so I placed the oval in the center of that fancy label, and then and then I run that to my machine so that there's the oval, and then but there's also kind of the fancy frame around it. And then I'm going to, and I also cut an oval around this green paper and then trim that into just slightly smaller than my card base. And then I am going to cut some very thin strips of my foam adhesive, and I'm going to put that on the very edge of that oval to create a window. And this is where I'm going to put my sequins and my tiny hearts. So the tiny hearts that I'm going to be using as my filler for that window was actually leftovers from when I ran that heart doily in my die cut machine. Because when you run it, you'll have these really itty bitty hearts from the design of the doily. And I thought it was really cute, and I wanted to save it. And so that's what I'm going to be using here. And I cut that in from a paper that was double-sided. One side was a very hot pink and then the other was light pink. So I had 2 tones of pink in there, so which worked really well because then I was able to use them, but I didn't have to run 2 different papers onto my die cut machine. So here are the hearts that I'm talking about, and I'm just going to be pulling out my doily so you can see that that's where it came from. So I love that doily die cut because you kind of get 2 different designs for just one type of product, and I am all for multiple use type of products. So here I'm adding just a little bit smidge of sequins because I figured that I wanted to fill that little space up a lot, and the hearts, I didn't have a lot of those hearts anyways, so added some sequins to that as well. And there is my shaker card. Now the front of the card was a little bit lonely, so I am going to try to kind of dress it up a little bit. Going to be auditioning a few different things here. I tried to do the hearts, but then I remembered I wanted to really use up this sticker sheet, and I have a bouquet of flowers and then a potted plant, and so I figured I'll use that one up. And then I'm going to go back and grab my trusty label die, one of my favorites from that Inspired by Stamping, and then I'm going to do the rub-ons again. So now that we're nearing the end of this video, I wanted to ask which one out of all of the cards was your favorite and why. And if you want to leave your answer in the comment section below, I would appreciate it. I know that I don't answer right away, but I try to answer as fast as I can. So here is a little bit peek of what is left over of my kit. I do have a bunch more of the washi, and then my sequins and my pearls there. Here are a bunch of the stickers and the rub-ons, and of course the tools will go back. My favorite part is because I've used up a lot of the papers and the sticker sheet. That's going to go in the trash. And then here are what's left over of the papers. And this just makes me happy because I was able to use up something that was just sitting in my space for a long time. And so those die cut of hearts, of course, I'm going to keep that and just see if I can use that for another card. And here are the kind of pictures again, or showing you showcase of the cards that I've created. And I actually created an extra card, so I have 11 cards out of this, and I just grabbed all of the scraps and then made another card. So thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you guys again another day. Bye.